Would you like to know the best personal development books to completely transform your life? Welcome to the Heal the Hurt podcast.
Remember when we were kids and we believed that anything was possible? We were going to be the first man or woman to do something really great. But then something happened. Something got in the way of living the life of greatness we know we were meant for. Well, it's now your turn to become the greatest version of yourself. And to achieve that, we will heal the hurt.
Now, I've broken this down into 5 sections, basically from start to finish, what we need to know to completely transform our lives. So we're going to talk about parenting, relationships, our health, the science behind change, and then what I call the final steps. Now, you're going to recognize there are a lot of incredibly famous books that have sold millions of copies that are not on this list. While I've read them and they're wonderful, the reason they didn't make this list is they didn't go deep enough. They offered lots of great tips, a starting point or something, but what I found, because it was my own life experience too, I'd read all of those and yet I was suicidal because ultimately they didn't provide solutions. They talked in what I call platitudes or superficial buzzwords, things that make us feel really good, but ultimately don't provide us the deeper answer. They stopped short of it. And they allowed us to feel good about ourselves, but ultimately the process didn't get us that transformation because it wasn't complete enough. All right. Now make sure you stay tuned to the end because there's one book I'm going to suggest that it's the one that encompasses all of it. It's the single most important one. So let's get started. There are 2 books really. The first one and the last one to me are the single most important books if you want to transform your life. And the first one is this, by Byron Katie, Loving What Is. And the reason I say that is because the single greatest disease in society, much more than COVID, much more than anything else, any heart disease, cancer, any of them, the single greatest disease in society today is denial. We are all in massive denial. And no one's talking about it. And frustratingly, Byron Katie she's an expert in denial. The questions, the worksheet she's developed breaks down denial like that. But unfortunately, she doesn't even call it that. She calls it the work, which for me is upsetting because it's kind of denial of what she's really confronting. But the beauty of that is, here's the problem with denial. Because of all of us being in massively high denial, when we're in denial, we're not in truth. And when we're not in truth, we have low self-esteem. Now, the beauty of confronting our denial, when we see the truth of our imperfections and we can accept them, even the most ugly parts of ourselves, the things we don't want anyone to know, anyone to share, what are we going to gain? Self-esteem, right? See, that's one of the struggles with a lot of the personal development books. They won't go deep enough. They won't really challenge you on that stuff. That's going to make you feel uncomfortable. They keep it light and fluffy so you feel good, but they don't challenge this. Well, that's what's keeping everybody stuck. That's why so much there's really becoming a bias against personal development because it's not working. It doesn't go to the answer. Well, that's because they're not challenging denial. They're not confronting, wait a minute. Until we can see how perfectly imperfect we are and own those broken parts of ourselves that we don't want anyone else to know, and most of all, we don't want ourselves to know, we will never have enough self-esteem to walk in our greatness, to truly transform. So the first step, the first book, this is a lifelong process, confronting our denial, waking up every single day and going, okay, where am I lying to myself about anything I'm doing? And unless we confront this denial, no personal development book will work. It just won't. Because we're gonna minimize, suppress, repress, deny, make justifications for all these things that are keeping us from the greatest version of ourselves. And so that's why denial is the single greatest killer in society today. It's the single greatest reason most of us aren't reaching our full potential. And so that has to be the first thing on your list. Literally, every single book by Byron Katie, every single video by Byron Katie, we all must become experts in confronting our denial. It's the single greatest key in all of this. All right? So that's the first step. Now let's move on to the beginning, parenting. Okay? Now I'm going to go at this from two places. One, how to be a good parent ourselves. But also, what most people are in denial about is how our parenting is keeping us from our greatness and keeping us from that transformation. We have a society that refuses, that's in denial about the imperfections of our parents. We justify, minimize, we go, well, they did the best they could, but that's a justification. That's a minimization. We don't want to confront the imperfect nature of our parents. Well, here's the problem with that. And Alice Miller, I used to say this differently, but when I ran into Alice Miller, she said this beautifully. And here's why we all must get out of denial and face the truth that our parents left scars in us. The first reason is none of them take a class. Think about it. Our whole parenting model, it's advocated that we don't learn anything about it. I mean, we get PhDs and everything else, but parenting, nothing. And if you suggest even learning about parenting, people get defensive. Well, that's massive denial. Well, then, but think of that, the result of that. How could anybody be a perfect parent? Yet over 70%, usually more around 80% of the people I talk to will say their childhood was perfect. It's absolutely not possible. Tom Brady might be considered, if you're a football fan, Tom Brady might be considered one of the greatest athletes that's ever walked this planet. Since the age of 6, he's had countless experts teaching him how to throw the ball, how to get in shape, how to eat, his physical therapies, had countless experts coaching him and teaching him for almost 40 years. And yet every single day, he throws an interception, he fumbles, an incompletion. In other words, he screws up nonstop. Yet we think our parents who've had absolutely no coaching and no training were perfect. It's just not possible. That's massive denial. Now, here's why we want to confront that. It's not to belittle our parents. They adore us. They did the best they could. But when we don't confront it, when we stay in denial, do you realize what we're doing? And again, this is from Alice Miller. You see, the only reason our parents were perfectly imperfect is because their parents were perfectly imperfect. And so, when we don't confront this truth, when we don't look at this, you know what we're doing? We're robbing the little child inside of them who's just as hurt as us. We're not giving them a voice. Well, I thought we loved our parents. Wouldn't we want to protect the little child inside of them and go, look, I know you were imperfect with me, but I know the only reason it happened is because your parents were imperfect with you. Why don't we talk about that, Mom? Why don't we talk about that, Dad? I'm sure no one's ever listened to you. Why don't we listen to each other? That would be a gorgeous relationship, wouldn't it? That's why we need to confront this dynamic, okay? So, let's start doing that. One of the greatest books, and some of these books throughout this will touch on those aspects, but one of the greatest books to do that is this one. It's by Barbara Engel. It's called The Emotionally Abusive Relationship. Now, this book is really written more kind of relationship of why you end up in poor relationships, but really what it is it's a great parenting book. She breaks down all different types of parenting styles, and you're going to see, oh my God, the way I thought my parents were perfect actually has created a lot of damage in my life, and it's why I'm attracted to this type of person or that type of person, why my relationships keep failing, why I'm struggling financially, why I'm struggling with friends, why I'm struggling with my health. So without that information of how your parents were perfectly imperfect, you can read all the other personal development books, but you're not touching the source. And see, that's the key. Every book I'm giving you here gets to the source of the problem. If you don't go deep, if you don't go all the way down there into that dark, ugly, murky stuff that nobody wants to deal with, you'll never get to the solution. And that's why you're going to see so many great books are left off this list, because they don't want to go there. Well, they're robbing all of us of the solution if we don't go there. So, after Byron Katie, The Emotionally Abusive Relationship. Go become an expert in how your parents were perfectly imperfect and how that's showing up in your life and how you're reliving that same pain, abandonment, and everything throughout your life. Now, the next book, this is by Gabor Mate, Scattered Minds. Every kid now is being diagnosed with ADD, ADHD. Kids are just being drugged up and filled with pills. Well, listen to what ADD is. ADHD, attention deficit. Do you hear that? Attention deficit. This book proves that it's not a chemical problem in the brain. Well, that's not true. That it's not a genetic problem in the brain. That it's a lack of parenting. It's a lack of what's called attunement. It's attention deficit. See, the reason these kids bounce off like this, and adults, all of us, is because we went through massive trauma as children. All right, we felt a sense of abandonment. And so the fear of that, our brain does what basically is called dissociation. It leaves. That's all ADD and ADHD is. It's an attempt to soothe intolerable pain. You're going to learn all about it. So if you struggle with ADD, if your kids struggle or ADHD or any of that, this book is going to break the ice on, oh my God, why don't we start dealing with the issue instead of pumping everybody with pills? Pills are not the answer. It's a lack of connection because we haven't been taught how to parent correctly to create attunement. You're going to learn all about this. This is critical to learn because most of the population is now claiming I'm ADD, I'm ADHD. Oh, there's nothing I can do. It's genetic, and that's all hogwash, complete hogwash. A gene doesn't change in a couple generations. It takes many, many generations for a gene to mutate and develop a disease, so-called disease. In just 1 or 2 generations, all of a sudden ADD and ADHD is up and they're calling it a genetic mutation. It's a complete lie. It's not true. That's not how it works. You're going to learn all about it. It's a lack of parental connection with our parents. You're going to learn how to heal that and what true connection looks like. This is critical and part of personal development. Now, let's move on to, since none of us are taught how to be a parent, let's learn. So whether you have kids already or you're thinking of having kids, this book is a godsend. Parenting with Love and Logic. All right, Dr. Foster Cline and Dr. Jim Fay. I'm not sure if it's Dr. Jim Fay, but it's Jim Fay and Dr. Cline. I'm telling you, when I learned the skills and tools in that book, man, did parenting get easy. See, the way we've all been taught to parent is to basically be dictators and rulers. Do what I say, spank them, beat them, talk down to them, just enforce the law. Well, what does that create? See, this is one of the things. I know we've all been raised and spanked and everyone's like, oh, it teaches discipline. Oh, it's good for them. Well, let me ask you this. If you think that's so good, if it teaches discipline, then are you perfectly okay that if you make a mistake at your job, for your boss to call you in and say, pull your pants down, I'm going to spank you? Well, of course not. You'd immediately file a lawsuit and you'd win millions. Yet somehow we as a society think that's good to do to a defenseless child. We don't consider that abuse. Can you let that sink in? And I know. And so now here's what's coming up. You're angry at me? Denial. Go do a worksheet and you're going to see exactly what you're in denial about. And that's why I'm saying this book is key. Because as you hear some of these things and you get angry and go, no, spanking's good and look at what it did for me. Well, okay, where are you in your life? Have you achieved everything you wanted? Are you in denial about where you are in your life? This is kind of confrontive, and please don't hear me as judging you. I struggle sometimes because I get so excited of, wait a minute, there are real answers out there. But most people get afraid to really talk about the real answers. And so please don't hear me as judging and condemning. I'm trying to encourage, but I know when I get excited, I can come across like my grandfather, like I'm shaming you. That's not where my heart is. So if I come across that way, please understand it's not my intent. What I'm trying to do is break down the walls, give people permission. My God, isn't it time as a society we give everyone permission to start dealing with our demons? We have pushed them down and avoided them for centuries. We won't call things what they are. You look at society today, the racism, the COVID, all these situations, every single one of them are the result of a society that's refused, that's in massive denial about the pain we're in, and we won't face it. And that's what I'm advocating. I'm not trying to shame you and say you're bad. I'm just saying, isn't it time we start dealing with the cause, not medicating the problem? That's what I'm after. So please, if I come across as inconsiderate, or that I don't care, that's not my intent. I just get very excited. And when I get excited, I realize it comes across as anger. And I'm not angry. I'm just very passionate about it. So I hope that helps. I won't get into that again, but I hope that's what you hear. But getting back to parenting with love and logic, you're going to find parenting becomes so easy when you learn to allow your children to put parameters up to give them choices so that they gain power. A simple example was putting my daughters to bed when I learned about it. You know what a fight that is, right? Well, this is a simple tip I learned from the book. It's 8 o'clock, sweetheart. It's your bedtime. Would you like to walk into your bedroom, or would you like me to pick you up and carry you? I don't want to go to bed. No, you can't make me go to bed. Please let me stay up another half an hour. I'm going to ask one more time. Would you like to walk into your bedroom, or would you like me to pick you up and carry you? I hate you. It's not fair. I should go to bed. Oh, so it sounds like you'd like to pick me up and carry you. I'd love carrying you. Carrying you's the best. See, I didn't bite on the argument. I didn't have to become a ruler and beat her down. I just scooped her up. She's kicking and screaming and I'm hugging on her. It's peace. It's peace. We shouldn't be arguing and fighting with a 6, 8, 10-year-old. We're the adult, but we're not taught how to be the adult parent in the relationship. That's what you'll learn. I'm telling you, your life as a parent is going to get incredibly easy because of it. All right, now let's move on to relationships. These 3 books, no person on this planet should ever, ever, ever even consider going on a date until they read these 3 books. And I'm not exaggerating. When you read these 3 books, you're going to realize immediately why your relationships don't work, why divorce is over 50%, why you keep picking all these people that are crazy and everything. The first book, Pia Melody, Facing Codependence. Every single one of us are massively codependent. Nobody's immune from it. The parenting dynamic we've been raised with breeds this. Everything we see on TV, film, all of it. The relationship dynamics we see that we've been taught and believe are healthy are massively codependent. And that's why relationships don't work. That's why everyone's so dissatisfied. Now, because of the codependence, that leads to this. Every relationship dynamic, this is Pia Melody again, Facing Love Addiction. We are all either primarily a love addict or what's called a love avoidant. When you read this book, you're going to go, oh my God, why didn't someone tell me to read this before? And here's what else you're going to discover. Every single dating coach out there, all of them, all those dating coaches you read, you watch their forums, you go to all of their stuff, everything they're teaching is codependence, a massive manipulation. It's why relationships don't work. They teach you how to play the game of codependence wrong book. They teach you the game of how to play codependence and manipulate somebody to get them to like you. There's no love in it. None at all. It's just intensity. And that's why relationships don't work. You will never listen to a single dating coach ever again because all their advice is massive game playing. That's all it is. Literally, you'll never listen to any of them again. You will find the answer to how to have a healthy relationship. Next book, Pia Melody, Intimacy Factor. You have to have this. This will teach you how to fight with your partner and breed connection, not disconnection, okay? You will learn skills and tools on how to do that that'll change your life. These are 3 books that need to be required reading for every adult on this planet, and the relationship dynamic would completely shift. No other books on the market will go near what she talks about. It's essential that we do it. All right, now let's get to health. Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. This has an added benefit. This is the single best self-esteem book on the planet. You will, between mirror work, affirmations, all the things she does, the only change I'd say is she uses the word thought all the time. Every time you read the word thought, switch feeling, because thoughts don't change us, feelings do. All right, I'll get to that when I get to the science. All right, but other than that, her book is perfect. Plus, you're going to see a list in here of virtually every health condition. You're going to discover that, and this has been proven by science over and over. I've done podcasts on it, the ACE scores, all of it. Your health condition is a result of emotional trauma you haven't dealt with. And so like clients come in, their back's hurting, their shoulders hurting. I just pull out the list. I ask questions. I never pin them. I go, so what's the relationship like at home? What's the relationship here? And they will literally use the emotional words to describe what ties into thyroid problems or whatever the issue is. Every single health condition, other than 3 diseases, every single health condition we have is the result of emotional trauma that is stuck in the body and not being dealt with. You need to know what those are, and then later on you're going to learn the skills and tools to address those health problems correctly through emotion, dealing with the real solution, healing your emotions instead of taking pills which just medicate the problem. All right? This is critical for your health. The next one is this one. Well, actually, I want to do this one different. The Body Says No. This is also by Gabor Mate. Because we've all been raised codependently, we don't know how to say no. And the ramifications of not being able to say no are crippling health-wise. Autoimmune diseases, chronic pain, arthritis, cancer, ALS. The inability or the overabundance of codependence and the inability to take care of ourselves and stand up for ourselves because of the way we were raised is crippling us emotionally and crippling us in our health. You read this, you'll be astounded. And then go back to Weiss's book and discover, and another book coming on, some other books coming on that'll teach you how to heal the emotions behind the illness, critical to your health. The next one is almost all of us have been through trauma and severe trauma, sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, all in childhood or even after childhood. Peter Levine is the world's expert in somatic experiencing trauma work. It's incredibly effective. If you've been through any type of trauma, you must read this book. There are simple exercises. I've used them on myself, on my clients. It is absolute. I have an ankle that I tore the ligaments out several times as a kid. If you look at my ankle, it's like I have 2 ankle bones. There are no ligaments left. If I step on a rock, it just snaps. Well, I've been stuck in that trauma state. Just this simple exercise of slowly flexing my foot down and slowly flexing it up. All of a sudden, my whole body started to shake. Everything, because I've always been tilted and out of whack. Chiropractor, none of all those things that everyone goes to, waste of time because your body's stuck in a trauma position. And so what happens is your body starts to shake, it starts to sweat. You're basically releasing, think of a light switch stuck on. When you've been through trauma, your light switch is stuck on. This flips it on and off. And to do that, you go to like animals. You ever watch a gazelle get chased by a cheetah? Cheetah grabs it, and it's not dead yet, but it plays dead. All right? And the cheetah's exhausted, so it takes a break. And then all of a sudden, the gazelle just starts shaking, gets up and runs. That shaking response is letting go of the trauma. See, in our society, because of denial, we don't want anyone to know we're in trauma. So we never go through that release process. This teaches you how to do that. If you're stuck in trauma, you have to. If you've been through any type of trauma, you have to get this book. I did this. There was a lady in a car accident. I pulled over right as the accident happened. She was in that trauma state. Because of that book, I was able to just look at her and go, I'm here. It's okay. What are you feeling? And the paramedic came running up, hold her neck, all this. I'm like, shut up. Leave her alone. She's fine. And I just asked her, what are you feeling? She's like, I want to shake. And I said, good. Let it go. I'm right here. I'm right here with you. It's okay. You're perfectly fine. Actually, you'll be really good if you allow yourself to shake. And then I noticed her leg was twitching. I said, tell me what's going on with your leg. And she goes, it feels like it wants to run. I'm like, let it run. Go ahead. Move it. And you just watched her whole demeanor. She released all the trauma. I don't want to say I saved. That's too big. Peter Levine's skills and his experience allowed me to play a part in releasing this woman from a massively traumatic accident right in the moment that will never stay with her the rest of her life. That's something we all need to learn. Okay, now I'm running out of time. We got to get to the science of it. And see, this is critical, and most books leave it out. And if you want to know transformation and how to make all this stuff work, you have to get to the science of it. Candace Pert, The Molecules of Emotion. She's the one who basically discovered everything we do is emotion-based. All right, and that was discovered in the 70s. She did it. She found, basically, I'm being general here, but the emotional cell is kind of what she discovered. All right, and so that's why you always hear me say thoughts are a waste of time. Emotions are everything. And Candace Pert and many other people after her have shown emotions run us, not our thoughts. Our thoughts are a byproduct of what we feel. But everyone wants us to think, and that's why a lot of books got left off, because they're all thought-based. Waste of time. It's an incomplete solution, and I only go deep. I only go to the solution. This stuff up here is what's killing everybody. Everyone's in denial, avoiding this deeper, darker, emotional stuff. Well, you can't get to the answer unless you go here. Candace Pert, if you want to know the science behind why your emotions run everything, Candace is the one. Joe Dispenza, too. He gets into that. He talks about how by the age of 35, we're all on autopilot. You think you're making choices in your life. If you're over 35, you're not. You're just replaying the emotional trauma of your life. That's it. You're on emotional autopilot. You think you're thinking through things. You're not. You're just replaying the emotional conditions you've been stuck in your whole life. And that's why your life has been stuck on autopilot, and just repeating the same thing over and over. Because of all these other books, you haven't gone back and healed the original source. Joe breaks down the brain and body and how they connect, and how it's critically important that we know that connection so we can create transformation. The body keeps the score. This is critical. This, again, another book that gets into the science of how the brain and body are tied together. And this is the problem with medicine. They don't want to deal with the emotional side of things. That's why we're all so sick. That's why even more than COVID, people die from prescription medicine, basic medicine. More people are dying from that than COVID, yet we're shutting the world down over COVID. But our doctors are prescribing pills, killing more people every single day, and we won't want to talk about that. Because what does that mean? Denial. We'd have to face, oh my God, it's our emotions that are killing us. Well, I don't want to talk about that. Let's talk about this thing out here that I can't control, and then I don't have to face myself. Again, I'm not trying to shame. I'm just trying to get into reality of what's happening. The evidence is out there. The proof is out there. Make yourself an expert in it. Okay, we have 3 more books to go. The Power of Now, The Law of Attraction. These are the final steps. The problem is, you watch any single video of these 2 great people, and every single person at their conferences who can't live in the power of now or can't activate the law of attraction, listen to why. Every single person is stuck in trauma. There's something from their past. There's an emotional condition they can't get over. They're right. Law of attraction, all of it will work just like that. Immediately. For everybody. We don't have to go do recovery work. The problem is, since we as a society are in such denial about our emotional trauma, we don't know how to put our emotions aside, so we can't walk in the law of attraction. That's why these are at the end. Until you do the emotional trauma work and clean up all the other stuff involved in this, you'll never be able to get these to work. Ever. You'll never be present because your trauma is replaying inside you, keeping your brain spinning, keeping you afraid, obsessing. Law of attraction, not getting it is about obsessing about not having it. You'll never be able to stop it because what's the obsession about? Pain. You have to heal the pain first to make these work. All right? Now, we're going to get to the single most important book, and it's mine. Because after reading all these books and seeing the gaps in the process, I discovered a process that nobody else has that gives you the full process through the parenting, the relationships, the pain, mostly the pain, because that's at the heart of all of this. The denial is also in here, all of it. This is the most complete transformational book I've ever come across. And yes, that sounds very like I'm better, that's not my point. But this this goes down to the actual source of the problem and gives you the process on how to change it. And that's what we need. Not just why it isn't working, but how to change it. Your journey to success. So there it is. There are all the books. You want to transform your life? Those are the ones to do it. All right? I hope you decide to take that journey. I hope you decide to confront that denial. And I hope you decide to take your journey to success and live in the greatest version of yourself.